are on their way to join the webinar, but we can get started now. So first of all, good morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone who have joined this webinar. Really excited to present this webinar on maximizing ROI with an internal DevSecOps platform, where the idea is to have a complete walkthrough of the current trends in the software development processes, what problems that the organizations generally face, and then finally how an IDP or an internal developer or DevSecOps platform can solve those problems for you. Let me share my screen and yes, let's get started. I hope my screen is visible to everyone. Someone can raise a thumbs up if they are able to see the screen. Fantastic. Okay, so thanks again everyone for joining. My name is Rishabh and I am a DevOps consultant at OpsTree Solutions, working closely with the customers in driving and optimizing their existing CI/CD processes, the security compliance needs, the scalability needs for, let's say, startups or a small, medium, or a large enterprise across multiple industries. So at OpsTree, we work with the verticals and different scales of the company, helping them in their digital transformation, helping them in the adoption of the better practices in terms of the standardization, compliance, security, and the other options like cloud cost optimization, etc. Where, let's say, we have worked with multiple customers across multiple hyperscalers. Samir, are you saying something? Fantastic. Also, before starting, this session is going to be interactive in a sense that as we encompass through the demonstration and this webinar covering multiple pointers, you will also be seeing under the Q&A section multiple questions and the surveys. So feel free to answer them. If you have any questions in the meanwhile regarding any of the things that I'm going to talk about, feel free to also post in the chat box as well under the QA section. We are going to be covering the question answers after we complete the initial round of the walkthroughs of the presentation and a brief glimpse of Build Piper, which is an end-to-end integrated DevSecOps platform. Fantastic. So let's cover the agenda in a nutshell. So we are going to be, as mentioned, covering multiple pointers, of which the first one is going to be a brief discussion about the challenges in the traditional software development process and how the complexity of this entire development process keeps on evolving on the daily basis with the advent of new technologies and tools into the picture, especially with the stronghold of the CNCF or the cloud native landscape that has come up these days, which has created the scope of building a lot of tools around the cloud native practices, developing the cloud native applications, and then making the experience better in terms of compliance, in terms of delivery of the software, in terms of, let's say, creating a CI and CD pipelines and running them on top of a Kubernetes cluster. Then we are going to be covering the value proposition of the internal DevSecOps platform or an IDP. Essentially, what are the ingredients that you need and why do you exactly need an IDP, and the point is around that. I think my screen is visible to everyone, right? Let me recheck. because I think few people are not able to see my screen. Oh, yes. Um, is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, finish visible.
Thanks, thanks. Fantastic. I'm not sure how many of you have missed the screen and the topics that I was talking about. But again, we'll be starting off with the challenges and the current state of the traditional software development and how it keeps on evolving. Then the value proposition of the internal DevSecOps platform, what all things you need to create a internal DevSecOps platform, and how the existing enterprise IDPs that are there can help you in achieving your targets, help you in terms of, let's say, faster time to market, and then achieving the security compliance and a faster software delivery without compromising on these multiple pillars. Then we are going to cover the efficient CI and CD practices along with the automation techniques, the recipes of how you can get up and running with the reusable patterns, which multiple teams might already be creating in an organization. So that's the complete story around the standardization and the reusing of the components. And then we'll cover proven methods for measuring the return on investment, which is also the ROI. When you have an internal DevSecOps platform, or maybe if you're planning to create an internal DevSecOps platform or maybe purchase one, in that case, how your ROI is going to be looking like when you have a complete integrated platform into the picture. And then we'll walk briefly through why Build Piper. Essentially, Build Piper is an end-to-end application delivery platform, or an IDP, which helps you get up and running with the software delivery across multiple environments, across multiple hyperscalers. And then the actual glimpse of the Build Piper, what all main features that the platform has to offer, and then how you can benefit from these features in Build Piper. Now, let's first discuss the evolving landscape of the software development, where we are noticing as devs, as QAs, and even as DevOps, the complexity of the code base is increasing on the daily basis because of the involvement of the multiple new tools to do different kind of things. There are certain tools for doing the APM metrics visualization, and then there are tools which take care separately about your APMs in order to specifically have the visualization around your application performance when it is deployed across multiple environments. And then also there are different tools for, let's say, analytics, for logging, for visualization, for making your experience of doing the CI and CD better. So for that, you have another set of tool set. And then for profiling and all, etc. So you have a lot of tools in the picture these days, which essentially creates a lot of dependencies, and which calls for a need to have a very loosely coupled application so that it can cater the requirement of integration with the new tools, with the evolving landscape that you have, so that you could deploy it anywhere without having to worry about the dependencies and the requirements that the particular application has. So the increase in code base is one of the point, and then the rapid technological changes, which essentially is introduction of new tools whenever you're working with a piece of software. And then on top of that, the demand for the faster releases is also increasing on the day-to-day basis. So what we can see here is increasing in the complexity of the code base that you have, the architecture of the application that you have. And then on the other hand, we have this requirement of doing the faster releases so that we can take an advantage from the competitors that are there in the market, and then release the new features, and then get a new user base and new customers, etc. So there's a need for the faster release cycles without compromising on the security and the other compliance requirements. So in that case, it essentially becomes more and more complex to have these faster release cycles. And for that, you need robust pipelines into the picture, ready-made blueprints that you should have so that you could get up and running in no time. On the other hand, with these complexities being introduced in the modern development, there are a lot of challenges which developers are also facing because of the advent of or the introduction of multiple tools in the environment. Navigating through multiple tools and platforms creates or brings in a challenge for the developers themselves. For getting a simple piece of information, they need to navigate to different tools. One tool for, let's say, checking the logs, one tool for checking whether the deployment was successful or not, the other tool for checking the security requirements, or a separate security tool altogether, just to go to that dashboard and see whether you have any vulnerabilities in your code or not. And then the next point is about managing the security and compliance requirements, which is a must and which we already have discussed. And then they should also maintain the productivity and efficiency, because in this agile landscape where all the companies are essentially driving on top of the agile model, where they have sprints and then they work on sprints, and then they also need to ensure that they are productive enough and efficient enough to cater the requirement of the faster release cycles. So with this, we are going to compare the traditional DevOps versus the DevSecOps, which has recently been a booming or a trending term nowadays, because whenever we talk to a new customer, they always come to us with the requirement that they want the DevSecOps integration workflows in their environment so that they are not compromising on the security front. But before diving into that, let's discuss a bit about the traditional DevOps model. So essentially, DevOps was the model which was created to have a focus more on collaboration between the developer or the development teams and the operations teams, so that they don't have to do the to and fro between them to push out the fast and efficient releases. So essentially, DevOps was essentially a thought model which was created. It was not essentially a role, but again, it was a process altogether which combined the development and operations teams. And then using that collaboration, they were able to push out the releases on speed without compromising also on the efficiency. Now, DevSecOps is again, it hasn't changed much in terms of the actual definition of the DevOps, but DevSecOps is essentially the introduction of security into the picture, where previously security was considered as a second-class citizen. It was not given focus right at the beginning, and then the organization started to encounter multiple cyber attacks across multiple layers. It could be, let's say, on your production clusters, it could be on your dev or staging clusters, and then it could be related to some of the vulnerabilities that your application might be having that could be leveraged. Or on the other hand, it could be a software supply chain attack as well, essentially the attack on your CI and CD systems. And because of that, the organization and the audience realized that we need to have or consider security as a first class citizen, and consider it as or work through it as a shared responsibility. So essentially, the idea of embedding security with the DevOps brought this term DevSecOps, which essentially means embedding the security practices throughout the entire development lifecycle, so that you don't get any surprises whenever you are done deploying on the production environment. After that, let's say some scanning happens and some vulnerabilities identified. So the obvious question after a discussion about the traditional DevOps and the DevSecOps that we have into the picture these days, why this shift has happened. Some of the pointers I've already covered, which is the increased number of security attacks that has happened recently. There are a lot of cases which you could search on a single Google search, and you will see a lot of incidents that have happened, both from the normal organization's point of view and on the daily basis. A lot of attacks are being fabricated, even for the infrastructure of the AWS or Azure or GCP, whatever it is. The second reason was the need for the compliance with regulations. Again, it is very hard to have the compliance tracked in such a way that you are able to clearly see the picture in which section the specific team is compliant, or the specific application or line of business is compliant, or the entire organization is compliant or not, because of the standardization of the standard set of rules that needs to be followed. For example, now the countries, the governments, and also the organizations have taken compliance very seriously, because it is being enforced very seriously in terms of the examples of the HIPAA that we have, the GDPR, and also the PCI DSS compliance for fintech industries, organizations, etc. Hence, the need for DevSecOps. And finally, also there was a desire to reduce the costs associated with the security breaches, because let's say that you have deployed something on the production, and then out of the blue, you have done some scanning and some vulnerabilities identified. For example, the log4j vulnerability that created a trend across the world. So in those cases, it takes a lot of cost in terms of time and manpower to patch that particular vulnerability and ensure the system is compliant and vulnerability free. So in order to reduce those kind of costs, it is good to have the security integrations right at the earlier stages of the development, right from the dev environment itself, so that you don't get any surprises in the end. So here we are going to be first discussing about challenges without an internal developer platform. If we are, let's say, if we are just used to just using Jenkins for CI and CD processes, and then we are also using different set of tools, essentially we are logged out of the tooling burst that you have. And that tooling burst essentially gives you a, a imaginary kind of idea that yes, you are using so many tools and you are so efficient in using all of them. But again, as per the trends, what we have realized is if you keep on adding on to your tool set using different number of tools without having a single layer of uniformity or a single pane of glass that could cater the requirements of different personas in an organization, it gets very tough to manage these different applications. And then a lot of cost also is being spent to manage these tools and respective teams who are handling these tools as well. So the very first reason the very first challenge without an internal DevOps platform or a DevSecOps platform is the siloed teams and processes, where there is a lack of collaboration between different teams. It could be developers, operations, security teams, infrastructure teams, etc. And that collaboration, let's say, if you keep on within a group or over a mail chain, again, it is not as productive as it could have been. The second pointer is about the inefficient CI and CD practices, because in many organizations, CI and CD tools are being used to create the pipelines, but these pipelines are not end to end. And also you have to compromise on certain things whenever it comes to the application delivery or a feature delivery. So essentially, you are doing the releases of the services or deployment of the services, but since we are in the era of microservices, where the microservice architecture governs the architecture or the deployment pattern or the application fabrication pattern in the industry, it is very essential to have a robust CI and CD system or workflow in place, in which you don't have to do any manual intervention. So also the manual processes leads to a lot of errors and delays, which should be taken care of. The next thing is limited automation. For example, repetitive tasks that are performed manually consumes a lot of time, and that in turn decreases the productivity for devs, for QAs, and the other personas in an organization. The next pointer is about security as an afterthought. As I mentioned earlier, that essentially previously security was not the front face, or it was considered as something which could be leveraged if you have time, if you have bandwidth, and then also if you have the amount to bear that particular cost to maintain the entire security team and have the right set of enterprise toolings or open source toolings to scan your software, and then have the vulnerabilities identified right at the beginning of the software development lifecycle. Uh, this was not the case, but the case was security was an afterthought where the vulnerabilities were detected later in the software development lifecycle, which caused a lot of delays and also spending of the cost in terms of the time and the manpower. Finally, measuring the return on investment is difficult because if you're using different number of tools, you also need to manage and create the KPIs around that and SLAs around those tools which are being managed by different teams so that these systems are up and running and you don't have to compromise on that regarding or tackle with the downtimes, etc. So again, it is very complex to have these KPIs defined for different tools that you might be using as part of the standard CI and CD workflow that you might be having. So the clarity of metrics is very important here to identify or to justify the investments because having the right dashboard where you are able to track all the metrics and all the KPIs for the respective deployments or the management of the entire engineering applications that you might be having. Uh, Once you have a complete picture of the ROI, whatever you are inputting and then what you are getting out of those systems in terms of the flexibility, scalability, etc. So all those things can be well measured if you have an internal developer platform, because the trait or the characteristic of an internal developer platform is to provide you with a lot of views, lot of metrics, lot of visualizations and data so that you can not only cover your daily tasks in terms of building and deploying the software or shipping the software in general, but also to look at how the teams are doing, how an organization or an engineering unit in an organization is performing in terms of various matrices. For example, the DORA metrics, the code quality metrics, etc., where you might be using different tools to run your security scans, your testing tools, your automated test suites as well. So it is very essential to have the complete picture and have it driven via metrics and data so that it is not a guess game at the end of the day or a debate topic whether you should have an internal developer platform or not. Now, I think there is going to be obvious question that you already have discussed what are the things that we lack or that essentially are not seen whenever you're not using an internal developer or a DevSecOps platform. But again, it is very important to have the definition of the internal developer platform first. So essentially, as for the introduction of an IDP or an internal developer platform, it is essentially a suite of tools and resources which is being clubbed together to make the experience of the software delivery streamlined in such a manner that you are not compromising on any of the major pillars in terms of compliance, security, etc. So that's the whole point of having an internal developer platform. And then this platform acts as your centralized hub for the developers, for QAs, and for different personas in an organization to get some information, get themselves enabled in such a way that they are not any more dependent on any other tools or any other platform or any other teams. The entire workflow is happening through a single centralized platform where the collaboration between different teams is also happening at the same time. So you are not jumping onto different platforms to get different kind of information. You have a single platform, and then all the teams are there onboarded into that particular platform. And then these pipelines are created, taking into consideration multiple environments into the picture, multiple compliance needs or approval gates, or the compliance in terms of what can be delivered or deployed or what cannot in that respective environments. So all those configurations and expectations and collaborations can be set, and a collaboration can be done through this internal developer platform itself. Talking about the core objectives of the IDP, the main objective of the IDP is to enhance the developer productivity and make it multifold so that they are able to less concerned about all the problems that they might be facing on their day-to-day activities, be it in terms of, let's say, uh, verifying whether the deployment was successful, verifying whether their code is even compliant in terms of the security standards that the organization needs to follow, etc. And then IDP also simplifies the code management and the product development, because it has a lot of blueprints in the picture, which helps you get started very fast. So with a single click, ideally with a single click, you'll be able to, let's say, set up the pipelines for deployments of, let's say, infrastructure or applications across multiple environments. And then you have visualizations for those respective environments as well. And the last point is, again, which I have emphasized a lot more, which is collaboration across multiple teams. So it can act as a single source of truth for multiple teams, so that they can collaborate among themselves and then finally push out the new releases and take them till the production. So with this, we are going to be deep diving into the nitty-gritties of an IDP, starting off with the components that an effective IDP has. So the first is the developer-centric approach, where the tailored tools and interfaces are provided or created for the developer requirements, and these can be customized as well. The second point is scalability and flexibility, where the teams are able to adapt to the changing demands, and then they can scale with the respective growth. For example, there's a demand to have a new feature released as soon as possible, and then that requires a lot of additional efforts. But again, having an IDP simplifies those processes, because again, at the end of the day, it is all about the reusability of the components, and also creating these reusable blueprints, so that for deployment of a new feature, or maybe for onboarding of new services onto that platform, and creating workflows around it, is very much simple and scalable as well, so that there's also no cap on number of users that can use it, or the number of pipelines that could run in parallel, etc. So it is scalability and flexibility is what required, and it is a key component of an effective IDP. The third one is about integration and automation. The platform should be flexible enough to integrate with any other external tool or a system, so that there is no restriction on what tools you can use and what you cannot. Ideally, if an IDP is created in an organization, it should adhere to the integration requirements with other tools that are being used across the organization, because having that component only will ensure that there is a concept of standardization across the environment. And also, it should not bound you in some way, because again, if the is bounding you to, let's say, use or not use, or not able to, let's say, deploy to certain environment with certain application configurations, then there is no point of having the system at all. And then finally, the security integration, where the platform can provide you with the world-class integrations and ready to go or ready to integrate kind of integrations available within it, so that in case if you decide, or the teams decide, to use a specific tool for doing the security scanning at multiple stages across CI, CD, for example, the static analysis, dynamic analysis, software composition analysis, etc. And also nowadays, with the advent of the software supply chain security, the software bill of materials is also something that is being taken seriously nowadays, because the software bill of materials ultimately gives you a complete picture of all the dependencies that your applications are having, and then their respective vulnerability levels as well, so that you are able to detect some hidden things which generally have the tendency to be ignored most of the times, because uh, as part of the development lifecycle, especially with the developers, it is very advent that they can use any dependency, any tool, or any library to build a feature and then expand their code base. But again, at the end of the day, if these dependencies are not vetted properly, not scanned properly, it can lead to the backdoors or some vulnerabilities that could get identified, which could be critical for the infrastructure of an organization. So again, these are the key components of an effective IDP, and that creates an effective IDP considering what multiple use cases and multiple tools into the picture. With this, let's briefly discuss about the benefits of an IDP. Once you have an IDP created with the components that I mentioned in the previous slide, here are the benefits that you are going to be getting out of it. The first one is accelerated developer productivity, where the developers will be empowered to take a piece of code or an ideation from their local development environment and then take it to production. For example, using ready-to-use integrations, plugins, or blueprints of the CI and CD workflows, you can simply integrate them with the new application or idea or a feature that you might be creating, and then you can get it deployed as soon as possible without having to think about if I'm developing a new feature or maybe I am hacking on something. In the general hackathons that are being conducted across the organization to promote the feature set of a particular product. It becomes very helpful. It gets very helpful once you have the IDP into the picture, because you'll be reusing the blueprints to deploy a certain set of applications. For example, you'll be having blueprints ready for deploying your Java-based applications. You will be having the blueprints ready for deploying the .NET-based applications, React-based, Golang, or whatever language or language stack it is. So in that case, you are already be knowing that, yes, we have the workflow for this kind of application and tool set created already. And then that can be easily leveraged with the new feature that you are trying to deploy into respective environments. The second one is improved collaboration. So since using IDP essentially is a single pane of glass, which acts as a point of contact for multiple teams and foster the collaboration. So in that case, you get this unified platform for the cross-functional teams to work together rather than using some different channel for doing the collaboration. And then the alignment of the objectives between the development, operations, and security, because they will be having everything in their front. They know they don't need any special kind of accesses to, let's say, different environments or different tools, just to get an idea about the practices that have been implemented by a different team. From the development side, operations side, and the security side. So they can simply log in to the IDP, and then they can see what all has been configured and what all is missing and what all needs to be integrated as part of the next steps. And then we have the effective resource utilization, because again, you are having a single pane of glass, and then you have created multiple blueprints which could be readily used across multiple teams. And then you have also set up with the feature set of an IDP, the security integrations. It can be, let's say, SonarQube or any other security tool, both, let's say, enterprise-wide or the open source one, depends upon what tool that organization requires. So once you have all these components ready, and then you also have this benefit of, let's say, deploying your applications and infrastructure using both. So in that case, you are effectively utilizing the resources. What we have also seen is different organizations, different teams are there for different product lines, and these different product lines use different instances of Jenkins or any other CI/CD tool. It could be a GitHub Actions as well, and any other CI/CD tool in general, where they are maintaining their independent CI and CD tool for doing the deployments just for that respective line of business or a product line. So in that case, it is not a very good utilization of the resources, because again, you have a single instance of the CI and CD engine running across or multiple instances of these engines running across the multiple teams. So in that case, having an IDP ensures that you are having a single pane of glass, and then you have all the required features available in that IDP, and then without a single thought, you can go ahead in that IDP and then create your workflows around that. It also helps you in the reduction of time and of waste of time and also the duplication. And the last point regarding the benefits is the enhanced product quality, because once you have the streamlined workflows defined with all the blueprints ready, and then you have the different views in your IDP, which could lead you to errors or bugs. And also in terms of the extended scope, an AI can be integrated with an IDP so that you can get the flexibility or feature set of the debugging using the AI models as well. So you can integrate with the LLMs, and then you can analyze the logs there to check if there is any errors that you might be getting as part of the workflows during the build and deployment. And then you could then take it a next step further in terms of automation. For example, let's say if a bug is encountered in the workflows in which you were releasing to any specific environment, a ticket could be created automatically after that, or a notification could be sent out to the respective stakeholders or teams that the deployment has failed, or this error has encountered, this particular test is flaky, etc., or this particular build or deployment has failed. So there are n number of use cases where having an IDP gives you this option or a tool set or a plugin set of using multiple notification channels as well at the same time, and also analyzing the quality of the code that is being scanned across multiple check layers. So that was it all about the benefits of an IDP. We will now briefly cover the efficient CI and CD practices and also some of the automation blueprints that you can use even if you don't have an IDP. Essentially, you might be using, let's say, if you're using a certain CI and CD tool, in that case, using that tool only without, let's say, having the leverage of using an IDP, how you can streamline the CI and CD practices so that you are able to flush out the fast releases, and then you can create different infrastructure or new pipelines for, let's say, deploying new application set, or maybe modifying the existing pipelines that you have. So out of the multiple pointers that we have, the first one is the standardization of the pipelines. So it is very important to have a consistent process across teams and projects and the entire engineering unit as a whole, to have a set of standards defined for the product line from for team wise, etc. That totally depends upon the use case, what is the requirement for that respective organization. But it is very much important to have the consistency out there in terms of the standardization and compliance. It could be seen from a different point of view as well, where the standardization is created around the technology set or the language stack. For example, there could be a standard process of doing the CI and then CD for, let's say, Java-based applications or Golang-based applications or React-based applications. So there are n number of ways to bring in the standardization, which requires the specific knowledge in terms of the requirements that you have at that point of time, and how the organization follows the standards and the compliance in terms of that. The next one is automation techniques. So if you have the automation, if you have the tests already integrated as part of the applications, you already have the test written for it, be it unit tests, integration tests, performance tests. Ideally, they should be made part of the pipeline, and it should not be a manual process at all. And also after, let's say, if you have already configured the pipelines for doing the CI and CD, it is very important to have the automated rollbacks as well, apart from the deployments, because we do encounter failure of the pipelines depending upon n number of factors, because again, we all are using distributed system in some way or another, and then we have dependencies on various providers, various platforms, various tools, etc. So rollback can happen anywhere, anytime. In that case, we should be ready. If you don't have, let's say, an automation created for doing the automatic rollback, it is recommended to have at least a run book that defines if anything goes wrong with the pipelines, what are the next steps that are going to be, instead of thinking about doing the fix right then and there, we should have this documented at least. And then the person who is a dedicated release engineer and doing the releases for the respective teams or the entire unit gets an idea that, yes, if this has happened, these are the steps that I need to follow in order to get back the application up and running. The next one is about continuous feedback loops. So once you detect something unusual, it could be a vulnerability, it could be an error that has come up during the build and deployment process. There should be an immediate detection and resolution of the issues. If it is not getting resolved right then and there, then as per the agile methodology that the teams are following, the bugs should be created and should be kept track of those bugs and the other pointers around creation of the pipelines, errors, etc., so that these are not missed and does not repeat again. Uh, as part of the efficient CI and CD practices, the ideal goal is to have a use case or a scenario which is listed here under the example section, where developer John can spin up a fully configured ephemeral environments in minutes using environment as code capabilities, which simply highlights that developer John already had these modules created beforehand, and for him it was as simple as using those modules again as part of the workflow, and then getting the deployment right then and there. And then a new environment is up and running with all the dependencies and the configurations which are required for an application to be deployed. So this is the kind of scenario that is the end goal or the ideal goal that should be there once you have the efficient CI and CD practices in place. With this, let's come to the automation techniques for the optimal performance of the pipelines. So previously we discussed some essential components and certain set of best practices to create the CI and CD pipelines, but here we are focused more on the optimization front. So for the optimization and for creating these reusable modules and blueprints, it is very much important to have infrastructure as a code into the picture, because in that case you have the complete environment as a code right there stored in your code base, so that you can do any changes there, and then the infrastructure will be updated with those settings using tools like Terraform. And then the entire process also brings in a lot of visibility into the picture, because now you have a complete track when this environment as a code and then the version control system clubs together, which gives you a complete history regarding what all was modified previously and now what is the new set of updated changes that are going to be deployed as part of the workflow. The second one is configuration management. So automated environment setup and updates, and also the version control of tracking the changes. So once you have the configuration management tool like GitHub, GitLab, etc., you have these flexibility of creating these pipelines that could be automated and that could be triggered right on an event of a single Git commit onto the respective branches. You don't have to provide or do the manual intervention at any point in that stage, because again the workflow is completely automated and based on the events. And then we have the version control, which keeps track of every specific change that is going out, getting merged into the stable branches for the respective environments. And next is the self-service portal. Essentially, in any CI and CD system, it is ideal to have self-service kind of thing where the devs, QAs, etc., are not dependent on someone else to run the pipelines or do the configuration, etc. Self-service means that once you have created the workflow, it is just like going to the platform and then running through a series of steps, or maybe clicking a single button in ideal case scenarios, which by the way, Build Piper has a lot of these functionalities in which you can take the advantage of the single click functionality, which can help you to do multiple tasks as well. And for example, let's say deployment of multiple services as part of a package, creating an entire ephemeral environment with a single click, right? Getting the right set of information in terms of logs, analytics, views, etc., that you can get, right? on a single platform through as much less workflow steps as possible. So essentially a single click to get you everything. So that's where the self-service portal come into the picture, because also it empowers the developers to manage the environments, their respective pipelines, environments, applications independently. And it also reduces the delays and dependencies on the other teams. And then finally, monitoring and logging. It is very much important to have the monitoring and logging, uh, right set of monitoring and logging into the picture, because to get multiple outcomes out of it. For example, it first point could be the real-time insights whenever you are running the pipeline and the deployment is in progress. You get the real-time metrics about the different parameters in terms of, let's say, CPU, memory, network, IOPS, etc., so that you have a complete understanding of whether the deployment is going in the right direction. And then in terms of the continuous monitoring and observability, you can also go and refer these dashboards to track different insights in terms of the uptime, your SLA dashboard, and then different dashboards related to the exceptions management that might be happening in the existing deployed applications in that respective environment. So for that, Prometheus, Grafana, and Alert Manager are some of the well-known tools which are being widely adopted as well. There are other tools as well, but these are some of the open source offerings that are being widely accepted. So those can be adopted as well if you don't have any observability tool to essentially get the observability of the existing state of the applications and the infrastructure. With this, let's come to discuss how you can measure the ROI of an IDP, essentially what all it takes to measure the ROIs and what are the best ways to, let's say, standardize the KPIs which you need to create whenever you are thinking about an IDP. So in terms of the quantifying benefits, you see the increase in the deployment frequency. You also see the reduced lead time for changes, lower mean time to recovery, and the decreased change failure rate. So many of you might have already understood that these 4 pointers essentially map to the DORA metrics, which is a standard of measuring the maturity in terms of the engineering teams, where you measure the metrics like deployment frequency, lead time to change, mean time to recovery, and the change failure rate. So these are the quantifying benefits, and these metrics are something which should be tracked as well. And it also gives you a complete picture in terms of the return on investment of an IDP. And then for the calculation of the return on investment, it is as simple as your net profit by your investment cost into 100%. And these net profit could be, let's say, could be anything. It could be related to your increased productivity. It could be related to your less identification of the security vulnerabilities, less patching which is required onto the existing systems, and less updates or patches to the existing dependencies that the application might be having or catering. So in that cases, it reduces a lot of cost, because now with an IDP, you have the early benefit of running the scans right early into the software development lifecycle, and hence you are able to get through most of the problems that we generally see in the production environments or the higher setup of the environments, where if some issue happens, there's a lot of investment in terms of time, man-force, and also the other things in the picture in terms of the manageability, which increases your cost, and then also decreases the productivity and velocity, because again, it is like a roadblock which you encounter, and then more of the roadblocks that you encounter on the daily basis, less is your productivity, and then less again in turn is your velocity to push out the faster releases. And then we can consider both the tangible and intangible benefits in terms of, let's say, cost savings and also improved security and collaboration. And the cost saving could be both on the infrastructure side as well, and it could be on the human resource side as well, the engineers who are actually working in the engineering teams. So the benefits could be both tangible and intangible, and combines both of it, and hence you can calculate a complete return on investment whenever you are creating or using an IDP. Here are some of the case studies. These are essentially some of the customers of Opstree Solutions where they have mentioned after adopting an IDP like BuildPiper, what all benefits that they got. The first one is an e-commerce giant, which achieved almost 40% of the cost reduction with BuildPiper, where they had 400 plus microservices, and then migration. They also had this use case where they needed to migrate to AWS Graviton to do the cost saving for them. And then there was also 80% reduction in the deployment time and cost, because before that their process was haywire, and then some of the process was automated, the other was manual, and then there was a lot of struggling in between the standardization as well. So this was an e-commerce giant, and similarly, we have this B2B travel tech leader who modernized its platform in 6 weeks, improved the scalability, cutting the operational costs by 50%, and the speeding up the time to market by 10x, which is a huge number in itself. And finally, through BuildPiper, one of the customers enabled one of the customers, which is a healthcare giant, was able to achieve the monitoring and automation as well in terms of transformation of their operations, modernizing their CI and CD pipelines, and ensuring that they have efficiency at its peak. So these are some of the examples of the use cases of the actual customers that we at Opstree Solutions and BuildPiper have worked with, and then they were able to get the most out when they started using an IDP. Next, let's come to the strategies for maximizing the ROI. Ideally, it should happen via an IDP. And then as part of the feature set of the IDP, it needs to be customizable as well. And here are some of the pointers that you can see on the screen, of which the first one is the flexibility to tailor the IDP to unique needs, where every organization has a different set of requirements, different standards, different working ways. In those sense, the platform should be completely flexible in such a way that there's no specific hard coding in terms of what you can do and what you cannot do. It should be completely completely flexible, and should integrate with all the possible toolings that are available, and that could be adopted. Some of them would have been adopted, and some of the tools which are not adopted, but in future those could be adopted. So it should have the flexibility to integrate with any of these external integrations, which orchestrates the entire workflow. And then the optimal tool selection. Ideally, you should get a catalog, or you should have a kind of a catalog in terms of selecting what all tools that you can integrate as part of the workflow, both in CI and CD. And also it should be completely version control in terms of what is the version of the plugin, what is, if let's say there's a requirement for an application to, let's say, use Maven 3.5 as a build tool, but on the other hand, some other application might require Maven 3.0 as the version for building their respective applications. And then there could be variations in a similar stack around the version as well, especially in case of Java. There's 1.8, there's 20, and then there are a lot of JDKs that are available and that are being used independently. The third one is the efficient resource allocation, where optimizing cloud resources optimization of these cloud resources can be done through that platform itself to reduce the costs. Essentially, an IDP should have the visualization to provide you with the cloud cost trends, where you can clearly see whether your cloud cost is increasing or decreasing, not only at the organizational level, but also at the team level, at the environment level, and even at a single service level as well. And then obviously continuous improvement, where the regular assessments can be done on top of it, and then the platform can be updated as per the requirement, because again, the entire software development process is getting complex and complex, with a lot of tools being introduced into the picture for catering of multiple requirements. It is very essential to have this functionality where you are doing the regular assessments in your internal developer platform, and then identifying what features needs to be updated. In that case, you can also have a survey essentially broadcasted among multiple team members, just to get the suggestion of what is something that they are looking for on top of the existing system that they are using. So input from various stakeholders and from the actual members who are using it at a ground level, for example, the devs, QAs, DevOps, etc. It is very important to have the continuous improvements that you are making, both at the IDP feature set level and also at the workflow level as well, so that the pipelines could be more scalable, more checks could be integrated, it could be optimized so that the pipeline could complete within a reduced amount of time. And then finally, training and support, which is very much essential, because not everyone is going to be knowing some of the technologies that is being used in a specific organization. So in that case, it is very much essential to have this propagation of knowledge into the picture, where the investment is being done in the developer training so that it could utilize the platform to its max. So I'll just take a brief pause just to check if there is anything in the chat and the Q&A, and then uh, we can continue. Under the Q&A section, I can see there's a question. So I request Zara, Manu, and the other team members, if you have any other questions or surveys that could be posted here, then we can post them as well. Fantastic. So before going ahead, again, would like to ask from all of the members who are here in this call, have you ever heard of the term IDP before? Have you ever used IDP before? So you can simply do a thumbs up, and then you can let us know, or some different emoji set in case you haven't used it. Fantastic. So yes, previously we discussed about the strategies for maximizing the ROI, and now it's all about customizing your IDP for success. As I mentioned previously, different organizations have different kind of requirements, standards, and processes, and then the IDP needs to adhere to that. And then after, even after having, let's say, this adherence, the tool or the IDP should also have the flexibility to orchestrate the workflows and enable new feature requirements, new product requirements, so that they could be shipped faster. So customization and having the flexibility of customizing your IDP is the way to go. And that's what brings the success in terms of the wider adoption and then better utilization of the platform, of which the first thing is security. So we can, the platform should have the capability to implement multiple layers of security to protect the code and data. So ideally, the platform should have the tool set which helps with integration of different security tools at different point of time for different requirements. So it could be, let's say, different set of options for the tools which can do the static analysis for you, which can do the composition analysis, dynamic analysis, etc. For you. Then the next point is scalability, where it needs to be ensured that a platform can grow with your organization. For example, the number of users that keeps on increasing in an organization with new hiring, etc. So the teams are also getting bigger on the daily basis, or the size of the entire engineering unit is getting bigger and bigger with new set of requirements for different roles. So in that case, the platform should cater to the requirements and scale accordingly, so that you don't experience downtime that frequently. And then the next point is about flexibility, which I've already mentioned a couple or more times, where the platform needs to be flexible enough so that it could be integrated with different external tool sets with the growing requirements. And then it should support different integrations with the different tools. With that, you should have the flexibility to integrate with different language stacks, different, let's say, test suites for your regression testing. It could be Selenium, browser stack, etc., which could be used by different teams based on the varied requirements that they might be having. So once you have done the customization, again, it brings in a lot of maturity in terms of the collaboration as well, because once you have catered the requirement of different teams, and then different tools are there to cater the requirements for the different language stacks, and then for, let's say, releasing out the new features, you get increased metrics or increased percentage in terms of the collaboration that can happen among the teams in an organization, which could not happen possible otherwise. And here we can see the ROI paradigm, where it is essentially an amalgamation of different goals or trends, where the first one is a qualitative versus quantitative ROI, the long-term sustainability, and the engineering benchmarks. So hence, with clubbing all these 3 pointers, we can create a paradigm out of it, where from the quantitative point of view, cost savings is something that we are aiming to achieving, and hence the increased productivity as well. The qualitative, where the developers, QAs, etc., are pushing out the better quality code. Essentially, it is also one of the goals of the CIO is to ensure that the best possible quality code is being pushed out and available running in the production environments. So here it is qualitative, and then striving for the accelerated product launches so that you can have the faster time to market. For example, one of the customers that we talked about was able to achieve the 10x optimized time for the time to market. So that is the kind of use case that ideally the teams or an organization should thrive for whenever they are thinking about using an IDP. So that was about it. With this, I would like to introduce you all to BuildPiper, essentially what it is, and then how it relates to the IDP topic and the return on investment things that we have been talking about since an hour or so. So essentially, BuildPiper is an end-to-end application delivery platform where it enables different personas in an organization. For example, devs, QAs, DevOps, and also the engineering leadership, like engineering managers, the CIOs, the CTOs, etc., who generally wants to have a very high level view of what is the existing maturity of the organization based on the different compliance stand or the standards that are being set in terms of, let's say, doing keeping in track the release frequency, and then SLAs, etc., etc. What is the overall adoption of a specific security tool that was introduced in an organization, how the teams are using it, and even if the teams are using it, what is the rating of those teams in terms of, let's say, pushing out releases with zero critical or high vulnerabilities, etc. So that's the whole point of using BuildPiper, where essentially the platform acts as a single pane of glass, catering the requirements of different personas in an organization, and then also helping you do the deployment, streamline the workflows, and then create the reusable patterns, etc., which I'll come on to a bit later when we have the actual glimpse of the platform. But here are some of the key features of the BuildPiper, where you have these advanced CI and CD pipelines, also called as macro pipelines in the BuildPiper lingo, where using a single workflow, you can deploy multiple services as part of a package. So it could be 3, 5, 10, 15, even 50, 100 services could be deployed as part of a single workflow, keeping into consideration the change management requirements and the audit requirements as well. So the platform integrates with both Jira and ServiceNow, so that you could create the tickets, and then you have all these audit trails listed out there in that respective ticket. So later you can take the reference from that. Also, the platform provides you with the integrated security tools. So right on the day zero itself, you get integration with these well-known and well-adopted open source tools like SonarQube, and then the Trivi and for Claire, etc., including the enterprise ones as well. If you have the requirement of, let's say, using a check marks or a synopsis, etc., you will find in BuildPiper those kinds of integrations readily available, which you can use with a single click and then make that particular step a part of your workflow. And then it enhances your automation capabilities multifold, because you will notice as part of the walkthrough, there are a lot of components which could be reusable, and then there are a lot of views and the flexibility in terms of enabling a certain persona in an organization. That is all there. So you just get the right set of information which you need to get yourself enabled. Um, so that's what about the automation capabilities. BuildPiper also has a very advanced set of feature set where you can do the canary analysis on top of it. You can handle your infrastructure, your application deployments, whether the target environment is Kubernetes or ECS or VM or a serverless. It does not matter to BuildPiper. For BuildPiper, it's just a target environment. And then you can have a complete visualization across the environments as well, in terms of the resource utilization of the existing applications that you have deployed. And then for the next section, we are going to be answering how BuildPiper enhances the ROI, considering all the pointers that we have covered in the previous slides regarding what should be the indicators of an ideal IDP and what are the components of an IDP. So BuildPiper enhances the ROI because it has all these reusable components which you can readily attach to your application, which once onboarded on the platform, and then you can have your CI and CD up and running in minutes for even a new kind of deployment. So it reduces your time to market, and then it improves your security and compliance, because in BuildPiper itself, there are a lot of plugins available which you can readily use in terms of security and compliance, and then you can make it as part of the workflow. Also, the platform is powered by inbuilt role-based access control engine, which can be readily leveraged to create the users and then assign them certain accesses in terms of applications or services, and then essentially defining who can do what, see what on the platform. And then BuildPiper also optimizes the resource utilization, because again, the platform is based on the containerized architecture where there is no hard coding in terms of the agents or the components or the jobs that are going to be running. It is completely flexible because it is powered by containerization. The platform also essentially gets you this feature as well, wherein the BuildPiper as a platform gets deployed into your environment, and then all the control of the data and all the things resides within your environment itself. And also, it can help you with deployments across multiple environments, across multiple hyper scalers as well. And BuildPiper can also be deployed on a Kubernetes cluster. So essentially, you could work with the Kubernetes native CRDs and the resource sets that are there, and then you can get the BuildPiper up and running on the Kubernetes itself. So it can be deployed both in the VM, and then it could also be deployed on a Kubernetes cluster. So with this, let's come to a brief glimpse of BuildPiper, where I'll be walking you all through how BuildPiper looks like and what are the feature sets, and then how different personas get benefited out of it, essentially enhancing the ROI, the developer productivity, and the footprint in terms of the security and the compliance coverage that an organization ideally wants to achieve. So as I mentioned earlier, BuildViper is an end-to-end application delivery platform where it has on the day zero itself, it provides you with a lot of integrations in terms of different tools focused on security. Certain integrations are there which can help you with the actual deployment of a piece of infrastructure on Azure, on AWS, on GCP across multiple cloud providers. And then there are different plugins in terms of, let's say, the Ansible playbooks. So essentially, there is no restriction, and also these integrations are abstracted in such a way that you can also create your own plugins, customized plugins that cater the team's requirements or your own requirements. So these plugins can be a simple Terraform module or a simple Ansible playbook, or even your custom script as well, which you might have already written, and then it could be reused and then onboarded on the platform as a plugin. And then once it gets onboarded on a plugin, there's a concept of blueprints, which also I've been talking about since the beginning of the webinar, where for every application or for every team which is working on multiple services, we can create these blueprints, which also we call internally as the job templates. So essentially, we can create these job templates for different language stacks, different requirements, different workflows, be it deployment on the Kubernetes, deployment on a VM, or let's say deploying a serverless application in whatso environment or hyperscaler it is. With this, let me walk you through an example blueprint that specifically is created for the Python-based applications. Also, which has the software supply chain security considerations into the picture as well, where through blueprint in BuildViper, we can define the workflow in terms of the CI and CD. So the build job essentially represents the continuous integration steps that you all can see here under the blue boxes. These are the steps that are going to be executed whenever you trigger a build for that respective application. So first, the repository gets cloned, and with the provided tags or branches, etc., that could be configured in the build settings of the BuildViper. And then once the repository is cloned, then the respective tag or branch is checked out automatically. And then we are doing the Git leaks or the credential scanning using the Git leaks, where you get to see all these accidental commits in which you have committed the passwords or the API keys, etc., into the code base, which is not considered as very good of the practice. And then we are doing the static analysis, the basic static analysis using the tool Bandit, which is a Python specific static code analyzer. And then we are doing this complete extensive static analysis using the SonarQube. License Finder is being used here as the composition analysis tools, where it lists out all the dependencies and their respective licenses as well in terms of the visibility of what all, if you are using any license or any specific dependency which is not compliant with the existing compliance standards that are there in the organization. And then considering it is a Dockerized application, we are running the Docker linter to check whether the Docker file is written as per the industrial standards, and then ultimately the image is getting built. And then again, along with all the open source plugins and tools that are there essentially in the platform, which helps the user to, or the platform to orchestrate the workflows. There are a lot of plugins as well, which can be very intelligently leveraged to create a concept of standardization in an organization. For example, we have this image layer validator and the image size validator, which can be integrated as part of the workflow. And then certain standards could be specified in an organization that, and if there's a Dockerized application, the number of layers should not exceed this amount. And then the size of the Docker image should not exceed, let's say, 500 MB or 1 GB, etc. And then after this, we are doing an extensive software supply chain consolidation in the next steps using Trivi and Cosign, where using Trivi, we are generating a detailed software bill of materials. And then finally, we are attesting it, signing that respective artifact or the image that got created, and then finally publishing it to the respective container registry. So ideally, Build Piper acts as an orchestrator for you, where it has these ready-made functionalities to onboard your target environments, onboard your Kubernetes clusters. It can connect with your GitHub repositories, and then it can again in turn connect with your uh, container registries or artifact repositories as well. And then on top of that, you can create these blueprints and then these pipelines as well on the platform to have or to level up the automation or the orchestration game. As I mentioned previously, the platform has the bi-directional integration with the ticketing platforms like Jira or ServiceNow. So Build Piper can manage your end-to-end workflows, considering into picture the compliance as well. So it can create the tickets for you on the Jira platform. It can create the requests for you on the ServiceNow, and then it can also take into consideration the approvals as well at different gates or different stages as part of the pipeline workflow. Here in Build Piper, as I mentioned previously, the pipelines are a bit different from what we are generally used to see in tools like Jenkins or GitHub Actions, where we have these macro pipelines. So with a single click, you can select the services that you want to deploy with their respective settings in terms of the branch or tag that you might want to deploy across multiple environments. And then again, it is a lot of advanced features as well, in which you can add the additional fields, and then you can create automation around it, etc. And then we can simply run the pipeline either from the UI. Also, we can integrate a GitOps as well and achieve GitOps as well via Build Piper, because Build Piper at first hand, as it integrates with your version control system, with your GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, etc. It can read on these Git events as well. So essentially, you can have a zero touch or a touchless delivery pipeline configured when you adopt the GitOps model via Build Piper, because in that case, you won't be required to come to the UI and then trigger the deployments, etc. So essentially, the whole idea will be to have the end-to-end systems automated via Build Piper. And then once we run this particular pipeline, Build Piper provides you with the detailed views as well, just to see what is happening at a very low level in the pipeline. So as part of the standard workflow, what we are doing here is we are first, before the deployment, creating a change ticket. And then once the change ticket is created with the template and the customization that a user provides, the next section is about the go-no-go approval, where the approval is being taken from different stakeholders uh, just to proceed with the deployment. And then we have the dev lead sign off. For example, the dev lead from their end are giving the sign off that everything is good from the development point of view. Now it can go to QA. And then once it goes to QA, the build and deployment of that respective service happen. And under the build itself, the regression testing and then the other analysis in terms of the integration testing and any other technique, for example, chaos engineering, etc., or fuzzy testing could be included as part of the workflow in that respective blueprint, which was specifically created for the QA environment. And then simply that deployment also happens, the checks are run, and then once, let's say, everything is green and everything is successful, it goes to the next stage as well, where the sign off is being taken from the QA owner, that environment owner. And then ultimately it goes to the next higher set of environments till the production. And then once the production deployment is complete, the entire audit related information is stored in the release ticket that was created in the very first step out there. And then that specific ticket has all the information with respect to who gave the approval, and then what all parameters, what all tags are getting deployed, what all services are getting deployed in what environments, etc. So you have a complete idea about what is happening at a very low level and what has happened during the workflow of the deployment. So here we can see the ticket was created with a set of templatized question as well, which ideally could act as your release checklist. And then a lot of and then we have a whole set of information regarding what are the components that are getting deployed, who triggered the pipeline in QA environment, what all tags and branches are being used for different set of applications, etc. And then subsequently, it can also be integrated to update in real time the approvals as well. So once, let's say, at any stage in the build pipeline, someone gives the approval. In that case, that could be logged in the release ticket that this person has given the approval. Also, these approvals can be completely automated, and then using the build piper's role-based access control, we can configure who can give the approval and who cannot give the approval. And also, while doing the approval, we can present them with, let's say, a set of standard questions, which needs to be answered as well, and which could be made optional or mandatory as well. And then once the authorized user who has permission to give the approval can come here and then give the approval as well. Approvals, in case of approvals, the users have also the functionality to get the emails, and then they can get notified over the email that your approval is required for this particular pipeline, this particular step, etc. So all these functionalities in terms of the visualization, execution of the build and deployment, and then the notification as well is again available on the platform itself. With respect to the individual personas for dev and QA, they can simply come to the service overview, and once they have access to their respective services, they can simply see what all the services are there under their ownership, and then they can simply see the last build and deployment statuses for that respective environment. And in case all the environments which the particular service is associated with are all visible right in front of your eyes, so you don't have to manually go to a different platform and check how many environments are there, and then what version is currently deployed in which environment. When did the last pipeline run for the dev environment or the QA environment deployment, etc. You don't have that hassle anymore whenever you are using the build piper. So essentially, this service overview provides the self-service kind of experience where the developers can come in, do their changes. They can trigger the build either with the basic templates or the security integrated templates, where they have a lot of security checks into the picture with respect to the respective environments that the devs and the QAs or the DevOps are working with. And then again, the platform has a lot to offer in terms of the other functionalities as well. For example, in case of viewing the logs for the specific applications and then checking the status of the workflows, it is as simple as clicking that respective build. And for that specific build, you'll be able to see all the steps that have been executed as part of the workflow and their individual logs as well. So you don't get a single monolithic chunk of log file, but again, modularized fashion, in the modularized fashion, you get all these logs where you can seamlessly navigate across in terms of success and also in terms of failures as well, where the platform already has inbuilt intelligence in place, which gives you the information that what has went wrong at what stage as well. So all these events again are listed here, which you can see on the left side panel. Those events are being continuously scanned in build piper itself, and then the image is being pushed, and then if you want to run any post actions, those could be executed as well. So it makes the complete experience a whole lot more easier, and then you have the right set of information with respect to all your pipelines. It is very simple to do the deployments in the respective environments, where in case if you want to do the deployment on the QA environment, you have first of all the idea of what is the artifact or the version that is currently deployed, and then with the deployment button, you can simply trigger the deployment as well. In build piper, there are a lot of safety nets as well, in which you are protected to do the accidental mistakes in terms of deploying the wrong artifact into the wrong environment. So in that case, build piper provides you the guardrails as well, in which you can select the eligible artifact or tag either via UI or via the command line what needs to be deployed, and then it will be deployed in that respective environment. But it is not the complete picture. So the deployment can also be visualized as well in the real time, where whenever the deployment is happening, we can see the live status and the transitioning from the old replica set to the new replica set. Here, we are trying to deploy this service on a Kubernetes cluster. And then in this case also, we have a complete understanding and the live feed of the deployment progress that is happening. So you have the last mile assurance and validation in terms of the deployment that is progressing. Not only that, with a single pane of glass, you can also see all the pods that are being deployed and their respective statuses, their resource utilization metrics as well. For this particular deployment, it is going to be coming up in a while because deployment is still progressing. But again, you can also check the logs as well for the deployment for the applications that are running in those particular pods, the labels, etc. So you don't need to manually use the kubectl, go to or maybe go to any log analyzer platform to check for the logs which are coming from the pod in a Kubernetes cluster, etc. You get the complete flexibility so that you can get yourself enabled right then there using a single uniform platform itself. And then there are a lot of features in terms of, let's say, deployment of the different piece of infrastructure across multiple clouds. Here we have the example of AWS, where we have a pipeline which can deploy the entire or create the entire environment for you on the fly. So with a single click, you can trigger this pipeline and your entire environment will be created with all the layers that you can see here. Essentially, provisioning of an infrastructure or an environment has multiple layers involved with, which we can see. The first one is network layer, and then we have the container layer, middleware layer, and then finally the database layer as well, which is getting deployed. And not only the deployment, but you get the deployment with a lot of safety nets as well. For example, in case of this workflow, this is powered by Terraform modules which have been written. So essentially, Build Viper takes up your existing modules, whatever be it, whether it is written on the Terraform or it is a CDK or a cloud formation stack. Build Viper has integrations for all of them. And then there is no restriction on Build Viper in terms of the kind of language stack that the platform supports. It performs all the major language stacks that are there, both modern and the legacy based ones as well. So as part of the safety net, you can readily leverage tools like your infra cost and then check off for the compliance management as well. And then you can readily integrate the linter as well to check whether the Terraform code is written up to the industrial standards with the best set of practices or not. And then simply after passing these safety nets, you can simply go ahead and deploy that piece of infrastructure, because now you have a complete idea about the static point in time cost for the piece of infrastructure that you are trying to deploy. And then you also have the safety net around where you can define the compliance and block the deployment in case that compliance standard is not met. So again, Build Piper is not just only for the application deployment, but it can do a lot more in terms of the infrastructure management, creating of the ephemeral environments, and then the visualization as well across multiple standards, and then multiple pillars can be created on which you can get the visualizations, which I'll come on to later in the next part of this walkthrough. So as part of this demonstration, we have seen that how we are able to do the build and deployment for, let's say, a microservice, and then we also see a pipeline for deployment of a piece of infrastructure. Similarly, you can create mobile CI and CD pipelines on Build Piper, and then you can do the deployments on a VM using Build Pipers. You can deploy serverless applications using Build Piper as well. So there is no restriction on the kind of tools or platforms that you might be using in the environments. So these were mostly at a very high level some of the important features of the Build Piper. Apart from this, you also get to see the environment overview as well, where you can see all the environments that are part of the respective application, and then we can see the resource utilization as well for all the services that are deployed in that respective environment. So you get these dashboards where you are able to see the utilization of different services in terms of CPU and the memory, and then various other highlights in terms of the application usage of the resources, which clearly indicates and helps you in terms of the cost optimization as well, because with a single glance we can see how much of, with a full application getting deployed in that respective environment, we can see whether the environment is overutilized or underutilized. Similarly, the platform has a lot of features which can really help you in terms of the cost optimization as well, wherein you get the downtime scheduler built into the platform, where you can define the environment to stop, let's say, on Friday evening, and then it can come back up automatically on the Monday morning as well. So again, there are a lot more features in terms of the cost optimization, which essentially we are not going to be able to cover in this particular session. If you are interested in having a detailed demo of the platform, feel free to reach out to us, and then we can cater and schedule a specific demo where we'll be talking and discussing about your use cases and how BuildPiper as a platform can help you in achieving better standards in terms of security, compliance, and the other pillars. Finally, last but not the least, I would like to introduce to you BuildPiper Insights, where this is a dedicated platform which is specifically dedicated for visualization and directed to use for the personas like engineering managers, team leads, CTOs, CIOs, CEOs, etc., who essentially want a very high level of understanding how all the processes across the engineering teams are working, how many releases are being flushed out, what is the maturity in that sense. So here, using BuildPiper Insights, which has multiple modules, you can see different views using for different purposes. So there's a different view for assessing and visualizing the maturity of the existing systems using the multiple pillars. On the other hand, you can go to deployment insights to check and have the deployment analytics right then and there. And then you have the developer insights as well, which gives you a detailed view about the developer productivity, how the developers as a team and as an individual are performing, how many commits they are pushing out on the weekly basis, on the monthly basis, etc. And then a whole lot more visualization, which I'll come on to later as well. So here, in this case, we can see there are three pillars of standards which have been created. The first one is DORA metrics, the second one is code quality, and the third one is a dedicated SonarQube section as well. So under the beauty of maturity insights is it can give you a 30,000 feet at one point of time, but on the other hand, it can give you a very minute level information where you are able to see the standards and the ratings in that respective pillar across multiple teams as well. And then which in turn can go to a particular service level as well. So here, let me switch over to teams. And then here we can see under the teams, we can see all the respective teams which are listed out, and then their respective ratings in terms of the deployment frequency, in terms of DORA metrics, and then lead time to change failure rate, etc. And hence we are able to assess the maturity of the individual teams, how well they are doing in terms of the deployment frequency. For example, for this particular month, this team, OT AWS demo, has pushed out 48 releases. And then this team, OT demo MS, has pushed out 125 releases. On the other hand, these couple of teams have not pushed any, have pushed one releases each. And then these two teams are not pushed out any releases at all, or have done any deployment at all. And similarly, the lead time to change, the change failure rate. This could again be seen for the code quality and the other pillars as well, where you are able to see all these tools that you might be using in terms of the security, compliance, etc., and what is the rating that is there out of it. Again, beauty of this platform is you can set your own standards in terms of the definition of what can be an elite for you or what can be high, low, medium for you as well, based on your organizational standards. And then once the standard is set, then Build Piper's maturity insights engine will do the rest for you and will present to you different views and the ratings and different metrics across all the tools that are being leveraged across multiple applications, across multiple teams, or maybe across multiple line of businesses as well. And next, we are going to be moving to deployment insights, where in the deployment insights, you are able to see all the deployments across the timeline, whether it is days, weeks, months, etc. And then for the respective deployment, we are also able to see the details around that deployment as well. For example, in this particular deployment that happened on 28th of August, all these tickets were released as part of the deployment, and this OT demo MS team was the one who carried out the deployment as well. And then we can get more out of it because here you can leverage a lot more configuration options, and then you can create views of your own to get the most out of this dashboard that you can see here. Also, there's an option to, let's say, filter out the teams, and then you can see the stats for a specific team as well. And then you can also see the respective services as well. If you select a specific team, you'll be able to select different services as well that are part of that specific application or team. And then finally, the developer insights, where you can see at the company level, at the team level, and then at the individual level as well, what is the maturity and the current capacity in terms of the different teams that you have, the backend team and the front end team, as we can see here. And then their active developers, the total number of commits that they have done across the span of 7 days, which is selected here, and then the code reviews that are being done in that respective team, and the PRs raised versus merged. And then going on to, let's say, the individual deployment stats, you are able to see the total number of commits, whether the reviews are increasing on the average basis from, let's say, week on week, whether the reviews are increasing or decreasing. The pull request raise are increasing or decreasing on the week to week or month to month basis, etc. Because the ideal goal is to have is to make the developers more efficient and productive, so that they are able to push out more releases, and hence in turn they are able to create more commits, more pull requests, etc. And then you get to see a lot of these dashboards, which gives you deep insights in terms of their engagement, in terms of the overall contribution to the code bases that are there, where you can have the leaderboards, the commit distribution, the code reviews distribution, the pull request raised leaderboard, and then the distribution according to that itself. So yes, that was it regarding the Build Piper Insights, which present you with a lot of modules so that you can cater the requirement of having the visualization of all the possible most important information that you can get out of, so that you can plan for the next steps as well. And also you can assess the current state and the maturity of the organization and take a decision based on that, what are going to the next steps as part of the strategy of the organization, in terms of, let's say, if they want to continue with, let's say, enhancement of the features, or how much time they need to, let's say, push out a new product as well, with the current statistics that they are able to see across multiple teams and organization as a whole. So yes, that was the walkthrough of Build Piper as a platform at a very high level. Again, feel free to reach out to us in case you need the specialized demo. We can cater and we can schedule a demo as per your use cases, understanding your problems and the challenges and what you want to achieve. And then we can have the capability shown to you in terms of how Build Piper can come into the picture and help you maximizing the ROI that you are going to be doing. With this, let me switch back to the presentation with the final remark. Yes, let me present it once again. Not sure whether, yeah, it is starting from the beginning. Let me go till the end. So yes, that was it regarding the webinar that we had today, which was around maximizing the ROI with an internal developer platform. I hope you were able to get most out of it. I really think you might already be having a lot of questions, but yes, feel free to shoot those questions to us either under the Q&A section, and if you want to reach out to us individually, in that case, you can scan this QR code, and then you will be redirected to the Build Piper website where you can initiate a thread with us for the engagement. You can also go to buildpiper.io as well to get more information regarding Build Piper, what all feature set it has, what is the architecture, and how it really can help you taking the end-to-end software delivery responsibility into its hands, and then deliver you to the fullest in terms of giving you flexibilities in terms of, let's say, deployments, new product pushing out, of feature pushing out, the time to market itself, etc. So yes, with this, I'll stop sharing. Would request the team to share these QR codes and the other resources in the chat as well, so that people are able to go to the websites, or maybe reach out to us if they have specific questions regarding today's section, or maybe in general, everything about the cloud, CI/CD, DevOps, etc. To us, and then we'll be ready to help you out there as well. Let me quickly check if we have any other questions. Yeah, I don't think we have any questions, but yes, feel free to reach out to us in case if you have any questions. I think we can wrap this call up, right? Zara, Manu.
Yes, Rishabh. Yeah, we can.
Fantastic. So thanks a lot, everyone, again for joining in. Really